The sky over the suburban street was the color of old dishwater, a bland and familiar canvas. In the neat front yard of a perfectly ordinary house, the air began to hum. It was a sound below hearing, a vibration that set teeth on edge and made the window panes rattle. With a silent flash of displaced air, she appeared. She was tall, impossibly so, and clad in robes that seemed woven from twilight and distant nebulas. Her crown was not of metal, but of slender, articulated bands of light that orbited her brow. She was the very definition of regal, an empire contained in a single formidable presence. She was the queen. The front door of the house opened, and a man in a faded sweater stepped out. He held a mug of coffee, its steam a tiny, brave defiance against the monumental figure in his petunia bed. He looked at her, then at the spaceship, a sleek obsidian teardrop hovering silently above his driveway, blocking the sun. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice remarkably steady. The queen's eyes, pools of liquid silver, fixed on him. "I came to your house to retrieve my daughter," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried the weight of glaciers moving. "Your daughter?" The man repeated, taking a slow sip of his coffee. "I think you might have the wrong address. It's just me and my girl here." "There is no error," the queen stated. Her gaze shifted to the house, as if she could see through the vinyl siding and drywall. "She is here. She has been here for 7 of your years. The time for concealment is over." From behind the man, in the shadow of the doorway, a young woman emerged. She was dressed in simple jeans and a worn university sweatshirt, her hair tied in a messy bun. She held a data slate in one hand. She looked not at the majestic queen, but at the man, her father. "It's okay, Dad," she said, her voice soft. The queen's stern expression softened, just for a fraction of a second, into something akin to aching relief. "My child." The beacon finally pierced the planetary static. "I have come to bring you home." The young woman, the princess, stepped fully onto the porch. She met her mother's silvery gaze. "This is my home." A silence fell, deeper and more profound than the quiet hum of the ship. The queen blinked, as if the words were in a language she did not comprehend. "You are heir to the stellar matriarchy of Lyria. Your home is a palace of crystal atop the cliffs of azure, overlooking a sea of liquid light. This wooden box on a mud ball is not your home." The father moved to stand beside his daughter, a silent wall of faded cotton and paternal instinct. The princess placed a hand on his arm. "You left me here," she said to her mother, the words careful, precise. "The ship was failing. This was the only viable world. You told the escape pod to hide me, to keep me safe until you could return. You never said it would be a temporary shelter. It was a necessity of war." The queen's composure cracked, revealing a glimpse of desperate passion. "The usurpers' fleets were upon us. Hiding you in an uncharted, primitive system was the only way to preserve the bloodline. The war is over. I have won. I have spent 7 years searching this spiral arm for your signal. Everything I did for you. For our people. They await their princess." The princess looked down at the data slate in her hand, then out at the quiet street. A neighbor was peeking through a curtain. A hovercar drifted past, its occupants staring open-mouthed. This was her world. She had been 11 when the pod, clever and ancient, had rewritten her biology to pass as human, implanted memories of a life that never was into the mind of a grieving widower it had chosen as her guardian. It had given her a father who taught her to ride a bike, who helped with calculus homework, who sat up with her when she was sick. "They aren't my people," she said, finally. "My people are here. My dad spent his savings on my astronomy textbooks. Mrs. Henderson taught me how to bake apple pie. My friend from study group helped me through my first heartbreak. They are simple. They are flawed. They worry about taxes and traffic and the price of bread. They don't rule star systems. But they are my people. The queen stood immobile, her robes utterly still. You speak of trivialities, of mundane burdens. Your destiny is to rule, not to bake. She said the word as if it were alien. I don't want to rule, the princess said, and in saying it, she felt a final piece click into place inside her. I want to learn. I want to study astrophysics at the state university. I want to argue with my dad about who used the last of the milk. I want to live a life, not administer one. The father spoke, his voice low and calm, directed at the queen. She's happy here. She's loved. Isn't that what you wanted? For her to be safe and happy? The queen's luminous eyes studied him. She saw a simple man, his hands calloused from tinkering with engines in his garage, his strength not that of a warrior, but of a protector. He had, without question, opened his home to a strange child the world believed was his. He had given her everything he had. I wanted her to be great. The queen whispered. She is, the father said, with utter certainty. The queen looked back at her daughter, truly looked. She saw not the little girl she had sent away in a panic, but a young woman, grounded, certain, and fiercely attached to this small blue world. She saw the love in the way the girl leaned into her father's shoulder. It was a bond that had not been decreed by bloodline, but forged by years of shared, ordinary life. It was, in its own way, a strength her court had never known. The queen closed her eyes. The bands of light around her head pulsed gently. When she opened them, the glacial authority was gone, replaced by a profound, weary sorrow. You do not wish to leave. I do not, the princess affirmed. My life is here. My heart is here. Taking me would be an imprisonment, no matter how gilded the cage. For a long moment, the only sound was the distant bark of a dog. The great ship cast a long, cool shadow over the house. Then I have lost you twice, the queen said, her voice hollow. Once to war, and now to peace. She took a step forward, not with threat, but with a hesitant grace. She stopped at the foot of the porch steps, looking up at her daughter. Will you at least tell me of your life? Of these 7 years? The princess glanced at her father. He gave a small, almost imperceptible nod and stepped back, giving them space. He remained within reach, a quiet sentinel. The princess sat on the top step. After a pause, the queen gathered her magnificent robes and sat on the bottom step, a queen brought low by a simple porch. It was a surreal picture. Cosmic royalty sitting on treated pine knot, and so, the princess told her. She spoke of learning to swim in the community pool, of the smell of rain on hot asphalt, of her fascination with human telescopes that strained to see the very stars she was born among. She spoke of school plays, of failed experiments, of the comforting, constant presence of the man in the house behind her. The queen listened. She did not interrupt. She asked quiet questions. What is prom? Why is the fermented grain beverage of this world so inferior? Tell me of this internet. The afternoon sun began to wane, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a display more beautiful than any sea of liquid light. The ship above remained, a silent, watchful guardian. Finally, the queen stood. She seemed less a towering monarch now, and more simply a tall, sad woman far from home. I cannot command you, she said. A ruler who forces loyalty rules nothing of value. I see that now. The strength you have found here. It is not the strength I imagined, but it is strength nonetheless. She reached into the folds of her robe and withdrew a small, smooth orb of dark metal. She offered it to the princess. This is a link, a private channel. If you ever need me, if you ever wish to know more of your birthright, or if you just Want to talk? The princess took the orb. It was warm in her hand. Thank you. The queen then turned to the father. She inclined her head, a gesture of deep respect from a sovereign to another. You have kept the most precious treasure in the cosmos safe. You have given her a gift I could not. You have my gratitude and the non-interference protection of the Lyrian crown. This world is under my ward. No harm will come to it from the stars. The father simply nodded. She was never a treasure to me. She was my daughter. She still is. The queen's silver eyes glimmered. She looked one last time at the young woman on the porch, memorizing the curve of her cheek, the set of her jaw, the human light in her eyes. Be happy, my child, she said. And then, without ceremony, she turned and walked back across the lawn. The hum deepened. A beam of light enveloped her, and she was gone. Seconds later, the obsidian teardrop shot skyward with a silent, impossible speed and vanished into the deepening twilight. On the porch, the father put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. She leaned into him, the cold metal orb clasped tightly in her hand. You okay? He asked, his voice rough with emotion. She watched the empty spot in the sky where the ship had been. She felt the weight of two worlds, of two lives, settling within her. There was grief for a mother she barely knew, and a profound relief for the life she had chosen. Yeah, she said, turning to look at the warm, lighted windows of their house. I'm home. Inside, the ordinary world awaited. A half-finished essay on her data slate. Dishes in the sink. The mundane, beautiful, human life that was hers. She was a princess of Lyria, and she was a young woman of Earth. And for now, that was enough. The stars would wait.